The Owen James Report is brought to you by
NCB Capital Markets, serious about wealth. Precision. It's the difference between average returns or excellent. Control separates the great from the ordinary. Balance. It's what leaves you on your feet instead of on your face. Strategy. The flexibility to respond when the time is right. Making the right moves at the right time. That's what drives success. NCB Capital Markets, serious about wealth.
Good evening. This is the Owen James Report. On Tuesday, Parliament passed a historic bit of legislation which essentially seeks to put a cap on the level of debt Jamaica may contract. That the measure got good bipartisan support is indicative of politicians on both sides understanding the seriousness of Jamaica's profile as one of the world's most heavily indebted nations. It's certainly something that should not be lost in the hurly-burly of the news cycle. Last night at Mayberry's investor briefing, Finance Minister Dr. Peter Phillips described the passage of a Public Debt Management Act as a signal bit of legislation which will allow for the Minister of Finance to raise funds on the capital markets to pay down on debt within the context of identified limits to the level of debt the country may contract.
I say it is important, it has to go through the Senate, but I say it's important and path-breaking precisely because the central requirement of our time of our generation, I don't mean it in any other sense, is the requirement to manage down our debt.
The historic Public Debt Management Act is scheduled to be debated in the Senate. Jamaica's debt to GDP ratio is currently close to 140%, or almost 1.5 times the total value of goods and services Jamaica produces. On the foreign exchange market, both the benchmark American dollar as well as the Canadian dollar strengthened against the Jamaican currency. However, the British pound weakened. The actual numbers showed the US dollar gaining 9 Jamaican cents to close at an average selling rate of $91.63. The Canadian dollar advanced by 20 Jamaican cents to close at $92.13. However, sterling lost 76 cents Jamaican to close at $145.93. Remittance inflows to Jamaica plummeted to 3-year lows in September. In fact, the $154 million classified as remittance inflows represented the lowest monthly level since the financial crisis of 2009. Now, there were reductions in inflows from remittance companies as well as other countries. All but one of the major source countries showed negative growth in the remittances to Jamaica. In fact, of the US, UK, and Canada, only the United Kingdom showed growth. News on the market now. A 12% fall by Lascelles de Mercado mainly triggered losses in the Jamaican stock market indices today. The main JC index declined by 324 points or 0.3%. 20 stocks traded with 6 advancing, 9 declining, and 5 holding firm. And that's the Owen James Report. Good evening.
The Owen James Report was brought to you by
NCB Capital Markets, serious about wealth.